My teacher, Formanda Joy, she leads our group here in New York, and she hosts a lot of capoeira events throughout New York. She teaches a lot of classes, lectures throughout the region. She's very knowledgeable about capoeira, a lot of experience, and just someone that's just terribly important to us here in New York. So again, Formanda Joy.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you guys doing today? Great. Are you in here for a treat? Ready to see some movements? Great. Well, capoeira, if you didn't hear before, is an Afro-Brazilian martial art. It incorporates music, right? Round kicks, straight kicks, takedowns, and it is really like a movement conversation, and you'll see that as we get through the program, okay? So right now we're going to introduce the berimbau. The berimbau is the main instrument in capoeira. It leads what we call the roda, which is the circle in which we play capoeira.
All that with one wire. The berimbau is a very important instrument for capoeira. It gives us the rhythm, but it also gives us the melody. It's a percussion instrument. This wire is traditionally cut out of the tire of a car. The wood is a special wood that comes from Brazil called Meadow. It's bowed, tightened. A gourd is hollowed out and dried so it resonates the sound for us. That's just a rock. There are traditions around the rock as well. In Brazil, there used to be a currency called the reis, and there were large coins, very nice to grip, very like piratey, and traditionally it's used against the wire, but that currency doesn't exist anymore, so rocks would be just fine. The baqueta can be made of any wood. The harder the wood, the better.
Thank you. So the harder the wood, the better. The harder the wood, the better the sound. So this baqueta is one that I've acquired recently. It's very nice. I like the sound it makes. On my hand is a kashishi. So there'd be like coffee beans inside there, acai seeds. And so these different sounds put together sort of make up a single instrument orchestra. And later on today, we'll have a couple of these tuned together and make a nicer sounding, richer sound. And this is one of the instruments that will be in our orchestra. We also have a pandeiro, which is like a tambourine.
together the instruments along with our crew, we'll make some music. We'll sing some songs. We clap together, and you guys are free to participate in that with us. Let's do some. I'm going to teach you guys a song so that you can help participate a little bit into our art. Your part goes like this. Marinheiro só, marinheiro só, marinheiro só, marinheiro só. So what that means is, by the way, this is Portuguese. We'll get into a little bit of the history and the cultural context. What that means literally is lonely sailor. Marinheiro só, marinheiro só, ô marinheiro, marinheiro, marinheiro só, quem lhe ensinou a nadar, marinheiro só, ou foi o tombo do navio, marinheiro só, ou foi o balanço do mar. Lá vem, ele vem faceiro, todo de branco, com seu bonezinho. Ele ensinou a nadar, foi o tombo do navio, ou foi o balanço do mar. Lá vem, ele vem parceiro, todo com seu bonezinho. Ô marinheiro, marinheiro, ele ensinou a nadar, foi o tombo do navio. Now that was just the music. Once we start going with the music, we start playing the game. We start showing our art. We're going to show you a little bit of that now. And sometimes we like to do this where we show you and then we tell you about it. Today we're going to do a little bit of that. We can also tell you about it first and then show you. There's a lot to do, so we'll do both.
music always starts first. So we're gonna get the energy up, and then you're gonna see capoeira, okay? Here we go.
Marinheiro, marinheiro, quem ensinou a nadar foi o tombo do navio, foi o balanço do mar, ou foi o tombo do navio, foi o balanço do mar. Lá vem, ele vem parceiro, todo de branco, com seu bonezinho, o marinheiro, marinheiro, quem ensinou a nadar foi o tombo do navio, foi o balanço do mar. Lá vem, ele vem parceiro, todo de branco, com seu bonezinho. Marinheiro, marinheiro, quem ensinou a nadar foi o tombo do navio, foi o balanço do mar. Lá vem, ele vem parceiro, todo de branco, com seu bonezinho. Oh, lá vem, seu bonezinho, marinheiro, marinheiro, quem ensinou a nadar foi o tombo do navio, foi o balanço do mar. Lá vem, ele vem parceiro, todo de branco, com seu bonezinho. Oh, lá vem, foi o tombo do navio, foi o balanço do mar. Oh, lá vem, ele vem parceiro, todo de branco, com seu bonezinho. Oh, lá vem, ele vem, todo de branco, com seu amiguinho. O marinheiro, marinheiro, quem ensinou a nadar foi o tombo do navio, foi o balanço do mar. Lá vem, ele vem parceiro, todo de branco, com seu bonezinho. Oh, lá vem, ele vem parceiro, todo de branco, com seu bonezinho. That was capoeira. All of the stuff we've talked about before, the instrument, it's all part of it. But that's capoeira. It's two people having fun with movement that has the potential for danger. It is, after all, a martial art. What we do here is not choreographed. What we do here is not just dancing. And what we do here is not just playing. It's all of those things. Can somebody get hurt? Absolutely. Do we sometimes try to hurt each other? If we feel like it. For fun. There's a lot of history, there's a lot of cultural context to this. There's a lot of ritual, as you'll see. Some people are crouching down, some people might be reaching up to the heavens. Happy to talk to you guys about some of that. But the general gist is that there's two people coming together. They are coming together as partners in a game that is happening. And the rest of us are contributing energy to it. There are different paces to this. There's different instruments. In fact, I think one of our guys with the extra instruments just showed up, so we'll have a few more of these. There's different speeds, different rhythms. What we were playing just now is a game called Bengala. So the rhythm of the Bengala, as you'll have heard, is low, high, high. There's a lot of different rhythms that we can make with this one string that we've got. We can try a slower game called Angola. And we can even make that come down to a crawl. And you can imagine that as the pace of the music changes, so too does the pace of the game. A more fast-paced game will tend to be higher up with faster kicks and more acrobatics. A slower game might be lower to the ground with more ground movement and be much more about the cunningness that you can bring into the game, about the trickery, as opposed to the actual strike that you can throw against your opponent. Amen? So we're going to demonstrate that to you guys a little bit about the different kinds of games in capoeira. And everyone here will know Angola, so let's show them a little bit of Angola.
pace a little bit. All right. And do a little demonstration of just the movements. We're gonna have you guys. Yes. So we're gonna need your help with the clapping to give them some energy because they're gonna fly for you right now.
So, any questions? It's a heck of a workout, to say the least. One of the things that I found most interesting about capoeira when I first started 20 years ago was how people would do this and then get up and sing. It seemed like insanity. It's a really great way to catch your breath, is to force yourself to find the pace, breathe where you can, and then contribute to the energy. She is. Hi, Sylvie. What a great question. Do you want to answer that? Probably not. Yeah. Right. Traditionally, yeah. Traditionally, no. So the question was this traditionally done with women? Traditionally, no. In the last 20 years? 20 to 30 years, there's been a bit more of a breakthrough. I mean, our group fluctuates in more women than not, but it's largely there. Says the white man in the group. Capoeira today is very much about finding equality and finding equity. Capoeira's for all. Hi, Baker. That's my boy. But capoeira stems and has its roots in slavery. It's about as inequitable as you can get. And I may as well talk a little bit about that slavery background. I think now's a great time. So capoeira comes from, and it's debated by PhDs, but the large story, long and short of it, is that capoeira comes from slaves being brought from Africa to Brazil, and in Brazil developing from a bunch of different traditions, developing this art form that we call capoeira. Capoeira, nobody really knows exactly what the root of the word is, but it stems from a kind of grass that grows in Brazil called capoeira. Seems like a dead giveaway to me, but the debate goes on. So capoeira is a tall grass that's in Brazil, and what would happen is slaves that would run away from the farms would hide themselves in the capoeira. And because they had developed this art that they weren't really allowed to have in their repertoire, they were extremely deadly in the capoeira, especially where they could hide and strike when they were ready and then go back into hiding into the tall grass. So people who practiced capoeira became known as capoeira. In some places, capoeiristas, one who does capoeira. How was it developed? Well, first of all, they weren't supposed to have martial arts. You can imagine a slave master probably doesn't want the slaves practicing something that would give them self-defense, which is why it's disguised with music. So if a slave master were to come around, it would look like we're just sort of dancing in some African thing that they had never seen or heard of before. So that's why we hide the martial aspect of it in the game, in the dance. The music obviously stems from African roots. The berimbau is an African instrument. The conga drums that we use, called an atabaque, is an African instrument. The pandeiro, actually I really don't know about the pandeiro, very Brazilian. But it has all of these different inputs that turns into this game. Another aspect of how capoeira was developed was with slaves that had their hands bound. So you see a lot of foot movement. You see a lot of strikes where you're upside down. You go onto your bounded hands, say, to do what looks like a cartwheel, to use your feet to strike. So there's a lot of interesting aspects of capoeira like that. As the game develops, as slavery becomes outlawed in Brazil, and as the slaves become freed, capoeira moves into a part of the culture that is on the margins of society. They were actually called the marginals that practiced capoeira. Capoeira became illegal in Brazil because it was so closely attributed to people who were slaves and were no longer, and because of their lack of background or infrastructure, went to the margins of society, were associated with crime, were associated with laziness, people that didn't work, right? And so capoeiristas were known as on the fringes of society. They were outlaws, they were criminals, they were thieves and tricksters. In fact, the beating bow, you'll note the very base of the instrument here is pointed. The other one, yeah, so lift that up. Right, so the beating bow traditionally would have a point on it to be used as a weapon. It's disguised as a musical instrument, but also serving a secondary purpose. When capoeira was brought into the academy by a master called Mestre Bimba in the 30s, capoeira was given a belt system. It was given a structure. The kicks were given names. The violence from the streets was sort of removed from it in lieu of a class structure, a system towards which people could direct their respect. And eventually it was declared to not be illegal, and eventually became known as a national art of Brazil. At that point, you'll start seeing beating bows that instead of a point would have a soft piece of leather at the tip. And instead of a point at the bottom, like the more traditional ones, would have, actually if you raise that one up, would have a less dangerous tip. To sort of indicate that, like, you know, Mr. Policeman, we don't have a beef with you. This is just an instrument now. So there's a lot of little things like that in capoeira. Like that, anything about the instruments? Excellent. So just now you might have heard me refer to him as Hachinho. His real name's not Hachinho. A lot of people here have called me Galo. My real name's not Galo. Unfortunately, mine is on the poster, so all the cops know who I am. But Brazilian society, in general, has a culture of calling people by a nickname. It's a very informal culture. People are very warm and huggy, and something that doesn't go very well in a society with coronavirus. But Brazilians are very warm. They like to touch. They like to shake hands. They like to hug. And so we like to be intimate with each other. But that's not very good for cops who know your identity. So capoeiristas were traditionally given a nickname. When you joined a group, when you joined the school, people would no longer refer to you by your real name. They would refer to you by a nickname. And a nickname could be something that related to like a physical characteristic of yours, or maybe just something silly that you did once that really stuck out. So everybody here has a nickname, so that cops won't know who we are. Thanks, Nancy, for outing me. But that's another very interesting aspect of how capoeira was traditionally something that was on the fringes of society. People who did capoeira were not supposed to be part of the mainstream, and yet when it was legalized in the 30s, it was also validated and brought out of that. So I know that stemmed from our women involved in capoeira, but any other questions? Let me talk a little bit about the odd juxtaposition of religious symbols in capoeira, because what we do here is by no means religious in nature, but you can imagine that cultures from Africa and cultures from the Caribbean and cultures from the natives of Brazil, especially the non-natives of Brazil, like the Spanish and the Portuguese at the time when slavery was a thing in Brazil, you've got Catholicism, you've got Candomblé in the Caribbean, you've got all the African deities being brought over by the slaves. And there was a really interesting mix of religions where nobody really said to the other one directly, like, yours is wrong, mine is right. And eventually everything just sort of like started merging. There were like parallels. So like saints and other Catholic symbols found their parallels in the African deities. And like a whole new religion sprouted from that. So if you see someone crouching down here before they get into the circle to play, sometimes they'll do one of these. It's not an overt Catholic thing. It's a request for a blessing, like protect me as I go into this game fight that I'm going to. Not directly to a Catholic symbol, but just something that kind of was thrown into the circle along with everything else. So a lot of the songs we sing as well will refer to both African deities as well as Catholic saints as symbols for protection from, say, a snake, which is a metaphor for somebody's foot who's about to kick you. So a lot of the songs we sing have to do with protect me as I go in, watch out for that guy who is known for his particularly wrathful kick or headbutt. But they also have to do with things that are not necessarily directly associated with capoeira, but more secondary. So like capoeira usually existed in the ports, in the the cities with ports, so Rio de Janeiro, Natal, Fortaleza. And a lot of capoeiristas were also sailors. And so that first song that I sang with you guys, Marinheiro Sol, the Lonely Sailor, probably a capoeirista as well. So we sing about the ocean, we sing about the tides, and sometimes in ways that seem simple, but a simple symbol can also be very uniting and strong in how we feel about the game we're about to play. Have I talked enough? Is everyone rested? Any other questions from the crowd? All right, yeah. Was this mostly done in the rural areas? Very interesting question. Yes, also, capoeira is all over Brazil. And it depends where you go. Like when we travel to port cities like Rio, and also in the cities, right, where the culture really thrives, and especially where it survives these days. In the cities, you'll hear a lot more songs about the ocean and the tides and the sunsets. Whereas in the farm and in the rural areas, you'll hear a lot more songs about the horses and the cows and the work to be done, the cowboys, right? So the culture adapts, much like capoeira. Someone in the back? Yeah. Is this improvised? Yeah, this is all improvised. Yeah. Right, exactly. So an interesting aspect of capoeira is how much of a conversation it is between two people. I mentioned earlier that we can strike each other. We absolutely can, and that's always a threat. Nobody ever goes in saying like, okay, this is just a friendly, right? No, you're not gonna kick me, I'm not gonna kick you. That would take all the fun out of it. Because like it is a martial art. But one of the things we train is reading the body, reading the hips, reading the eyes, reading the momentum of direction that the body is going in. And the overall objective when it's a game is for the game to continue. Right? If I strike you, the game is over. We have to restart. If you strike me, then the game is over and I don't do it. So the game continues. And I don't know if maybe we should have a little demonstration of a takedown. A good takedown. So I've mentioned strikes a few times, but we also do takedowns, where somebody will do a kick, and the other person may do a what we call a vingativa, right? But you'll notice, and I'm just going to say the saying that to us is a complete cliche, capoeira doesn't fall, but when they fall well. Right? So do that vingativa again. You notice that avalanche here, he didn't fall. He lost his balance and recovered it and continued, so that the game can continue, the game can move on. Thanks, guys. In the back there, in the yellow.
At what age did you decide you wanted to do capoeira and why?
Personally, I started in college when I had time. I am Brazilian. I've always been exposed to this, and I was too busy playing volleyball or water polo or some other such thing. When I started capoeira, it was more of like, hey, there's a cool new thing on campus that I'll start and see if it sticks, and it stuck. I couldn't get myself away from this. I used to train 4 or 5 times a week. Anyone else have a fun story about how they started capoeira? Yeah, in college? College? High school? Oh yeah, he's young. I started here in the States, in California. Hi, Baker. Yeah. Yes, the young fella. Ah, nice question. Let me ask you a question. What color do you think is, what do you think it is?
Sign him up. Sign him up.
Which one's your favorite color? Blue. You like the green one? You can do both. Which one do you think is the highest color? No. I like the green one too. So Joy here is our teacher. She has the highest chord in the group. Hers is brown. Yeah.
So because capoeira is unique in that in many activities nowadays, not to say that it's fast, but in capoeira, a lot of these practitioners are practicing for, like Valo said, 20 years, and they're still not a master. So it takes dedication and commitment. A lot of the people on this floor have at least, I would say at least 10. How long have you been training for? He just hit 10, right? But most people on the stage, 10 years they've been practicing, they've dedicated to capoeira. So in our group, because different groups have different chord systems, we have 11 chord systems, 11 chords. It goes from white, which is like a light color, to the darkest color, which is black. And it will be like white, yellow, orange, red and blue, which you'll start to see right there. Blue, green, purple, brown, and then black. And usually, it sometimes takes about 25 years. But you know, everyone's journey is a little bit different. Some people take it on, they're teaching classes, they're traveling a lot more. Some people do it a little bit more leisurely. So they come, they train. What really is nice is that we have a whole spectrum of practitioners. Yes, question?
Capoeira.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
I happen to be a Brazilian.
Wow.
Yes,
I
sir.
was curious, do you interact at all with East Asian martial arts or American martial arts, or is it just completely different?
You know, we often train in studios that are also Taekwondo studios, or also Jiu-Jitsu studios, karate studios. So we interact with the community. To us, it's just one more fun thing to learn. A lot of us come from other martial arts backgrounds, and some of us are strictly capoeira. Just, you know, like I said, I used to play volleyball. So without hesitation or reserve, whatever happens is fine.
How do you determine, or who determines whether at the level to change the color of the cord?
That would be me, and then I because they train with me, but like even for me, my teacher, so it is like a tradition, right? So capoeira is generally an oral tradition, and a lot of the practices that we continue to do are still done, meaning like my master or my teacher is going to determine when it's time for me to move up. A lot of the times when you're getting to like my next chord, a lot of the people that have been playing capoeira for a long time, they say that it's the community that actually recognizes that it's time, and the teacher kind of goes by that. There's no, if you do this, you'll get that, if that makes sense. Yeah. Yes.
Comes from something, place, translated language.
Yeah, so in Portuguese, the word capoeira refers to a tall grass. Yeah, it's a grass that the escaped slaves would hide in and practice this art as a form of self-defense. And so that's the most generally accepted consensus of where the word comes from, but it is, you know, debated in PhD circles. I mentioned earlier one more thing I want to say before we get back into some movement. The give and take, and the give and take that the game provides. It looks choreographed, not because it is, but because we want the game to go on. The kicks are circular for the most part. Although there are straight kicks, there are strikes, those kicks tend to be less susceptible to the game continuing. And so a lot of what we throw are round kicks that allow for somebody to duck under them and then throw another round kick after that, so that the game is never ending. And those are the games that are the most interesting to watch, or the most interesting or the most beautiful to observe. We'll play a little bit more here.
Let's end with like a song. Let's play a little bit, we'll end with a
And as we play, pay attention to that aspect of it, because there's the martial arts aspect of it, which is the takedowns, which is the strikes, and there's also the fun, ongoing nature of the game, where a lot of the nuance comes in. So enjoy the rest of what we've got here to show you guys.
way here from Long Island, but if you're ever in the city, I teach in Queens. You're welcome to come by in Astoria and also Manhattan. But Gallo actually teaches kids here in Long Island, so he's going to make a little announcement about classes. And if you have any questions about that, you can certainly ask him.
Thanks, Joy. Yeah, so I teach kids class in Port Washington on Wednesdays at 5:30, right on Main Street, a place called Blue Moon. It's a Taekwondo academy. Yeah, we interact. Actually, my kids do Taekwondo there. So I teach kids class there. We're also going to start teaching adult classes, probably on Wednesdays as well, a little later in the night. So if you ever want to try some capoeira out, you need no experience to come. There's new people popping into capoeira classes all the time. It's for 5-year-olds up to 70 or however long you're able to walk. It's for everybody. And what I really like about capoeira is your own. There's no wrong way to do capoeira. The person who's the best at capoeira is the person who's having the most fun. So I think I win today. I really want to thank everybody from my group here for coming out and supporting us today. Thank Long Island Traditions for hosting us. We're happy to showcase our art. If you have any questions, we're going to hang out for a little bit. Feel free to approach us. We're nice, and thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it.